Hello and welcome everybody to Be the Wellness Podcast, episode number 8, the Ocho.
Ocho, headed towards Nueve.
Yep. Yeah, no going backwards.
Nope. So week 3, we're headed into week 3 here already. I can't believe how fast this is flying by.
March went by very quickly.
I know.
But the cool thing about that is that spring is next.
Yeah, what do they say? In like a lion, out like a lamb. Is that for March or is that for April?
I don't know.
Is that a saying at all?
It is a saying,
Okay.
But I'm not sure that it has anything to do with the months.
It does. I don't know which month.
We could Google it.
Yeah, we should Google it. Let me Google that for you.
Yeah. Funny.
So week 3, we are wrapping up our proprioception month, but we're not leaving it in the dust. We're definitely going to be incorporating some more proprioception stuff moving forward for next month. And that is because our focus is going to be on mobility. So mobility and proprioception, I think, are quite tied together. You could argue it from both sides, but ultimately, if you've got good mobility and you've got good proprioception, you're probably going to be a heck of an athlete.
Yeah. Or at least not fall down and break your hip in the ice.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Somewhere between badass athlete and not breaking your hip.
Yeah. Totally. You'll be right there.
You'll be right there.
Yeah. Exactly. Somewhere between a convalescent hospital and the Olympics.
Yes.
That's what we're shooting for.
That is what we're shooting for.
It really does go hand in hand. And I think we talked about it a little bit last week, that idea of having mobility in the areas that you need it and stability in the areas that you need that. And that's exactly what we're talking about, being mobile and then having the proprioceptive stability elsewhere.
So keeping with the proprioceptive changes we're making this month, we're going to be focused on mobility. And, mobility has been a really hot topic in the fitness world, really in the wellness world overall in the last couple of years. And that's largely from the popularity of Kelly Starrett and his New York Times bestselling book, Becoming a Supple Leopard. So we talked a little bit about this book with Katie Cordoza a few weeks ago when her husband, Glenn, when she was on the podcast, her husband, Glenn, is co-author of the book. And before Basel, and we're going to call it Basel because Becoming a Supple Leopard is a mouthful.
Cumbersome.
Yeah. I think everyone was approaching mobility and movement from a much different perspective. So it was about, trying to tweak your form, your movement from more of a mental perspective and really from more of a proprioceptive direction, if you think about it. But we were constantly, trying to get coaching cues to change our performance.
Yeah, totally. So you'd hear, knees out in the squat and elbows up, in the front squat or the catch position of the clean or any of those things, and which are good cues, except if you don't actually have the mobility to do that, then you're missing a large piece of the puzzle,
Yeah, and it's kind of like elbows up, elbows up. You're like, well, my elbows are up.
This is as high as they go.
Yes, it's as high as they go on you, but it's not as high as they should go. So this is where I think Kelly has really made a mark on obviously the fitness world, but also just on the movement world, which we're all movers. So this is important information for all of us.
So one of the things that I think is really good about Kelly's system is that it's, his kind of global concept is to take the things that he would be doing as a physical therapist and turning them into things you can do for yourself.
Right.
And his whole thing is like, if you haven't done these 10 things, then don't even call me, kind of a thing. Like, I don't want to see, as a physical therapist, I don't want to see people who haven't at least tried these things to fix their problem before they come to me. And so that's what you see all throughout the book.
It's a booming practice.
He's killing it, which, he is killing it.
No,
but
that's the funny thing.
Seems to be working well for him. But that's what you see in the book is all these kind of weird positions. And obviously on Mobility WOD, we link a lot of the videos and stuff when people have questions. But you see him getting into these weird positions and, well, how come I've never seen this before? Like, well, there's never been a physical therapist that said, okay, well, I would do this to you if you were laying on a table. So now how can you do it to yourself?
Right. Right. And that's kind of for treatment if you have lack of mobility and you've got, issues where you can't get into positions. But he's also about avoiding getting there in the first place. So how can you get into a maintenance mode, and how can you move throughout the day, and what can you do that keeps your body limber and mobile and so that you're not dealing with broken patterns.
Yeah.
So, but what he's done, which is amazing, is he's given us systems for breaking apart movement patterns and figuring out where the breakdowns are in the movements so that you can fix those positions. So as we were saying before, where coaching used to be much more about like proprioception and coaching cues and strength, he's going, okay, let's break apart the movement pattern. Let's start from start from square one and see what is the movements involved in getting you into this position, and how can we improve upon each piece of the pie. So yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. And I think it's really changed the face of fitness. And before, it used to be like the foam roller was the most cutting edge thing going. Like if you did 2 minutes of foam rolling at the end of your workout, you were killing it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so now it's much more integrated. It's much more important. And I think it's much more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, he's kind of taken this system and made it something that's, accessible is a great word.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of do more of that, right? So We've done a little bit of this T-spine smashing and low back smashing, and we've kind of just scratched the surface on that this last month, and these upcoming months are gonna dive quite a bit more into that.
Right. And our goal is to take his book, Becoming a Supple Leopard, which is a very complex and comprehensive book, and break it into small bite-sized portions for you guys. So to give you little bits every day so that you don't feel like, I've had a lot of clients out there, and you know who you are, people I've worked with. I pretty much have everyone get a copy of this book. And sometimes, they can be a little overwhelmed by it because it is a lot of information.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it really is designed for coaches and then some higher level athletes. The book is.
It's a textbook, really.
It's a textbook, yeah.
But it's totally approachable as a layperson.
Sure.
It's actually, just like any textbook, I guess, if you just take the time and read the information, you can get through it. But when you first get it, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It's intimidating. But like Vanessa said, as soon as you crack into it and start actually reading through the systems-based approach to the whole thing, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. So those of you who have not purchased your yoga tune-up balls or don't have some other form of smashing device at your fingertips, make sure you get a hold of something. Either order yoga tune-up balls or get some lacrosse balls, some tennis balls,
whatever. The lacrosse balls are pretty harsh. So if you're if this is a new thing, this whole smashing and rolling and bit, then the lacrosse balls are a pretty brave first step. You can put them in a sock, or you can do some stuff like that to kind of soften the blow a little bit. But you may, for the 99 cents or whatever it is they cost, you might grab a pair of tennis balls as well.
Mm-hmm. And with that said, if you're looking at the yoga tune-up balls, we have a couple different options on there. One of them is a larger alpha ball set. So they're a little bit bigger in size. And then there's a smaller diameter size. And I think they're blue colored or a light blue color, something like that. Those are just the regular yoga tune-up balls.
Yeah.
And that's going to kind of be the same too. The little bit bigger is going to be a little less gnarly, and the little smaller is going to dig in a little more. They're both totally tolerable. And the only other thing I would say is for smaller people, for women, the smaller set might be better. If you want to go crazy, get both. I mean, Adam and I both have a set of each. So, that's...
Yeah, I definitely use the bigger ones more.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
I'm bigger.
Yes.
Yeah, they fit right between my shoulder blades, which is cool.
Yeah, I've been using the bigger ones a lot lately, but, when I first got the small ones, I used them a ton too. So either is fine. You just need something. So we wanted to give you guys kind of a heads up if you haven't got that piece of this, equipment thing dialed in yet, make sure you do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do that.
So that's next month. We just wanted to give you a heads up, and now we're going to move on to some questions. First question. We got a few questions about cholesterol, the big abyss of cholesterol.
Big C.
Yes.
Yeah. So cholesterol is, I mean, it's a complicated, ever-changing topic,
Yes.
is what it comes down to. There's a lot of conventional wisdom out there that's, inaccurate. There's a lot of things that are just sort of misconstrued and misunderstood, just like anything. But I think that the real problem with cholesterol is that a lot of these misunderstandings and kind of conventional wisdom things lead people to potentially end up being on drugs that are, not great, not great form and maybe really not necessary if we put a little bit more thought into how the whole thing goes. So,
yeah, well, and this is a complicated topic too for people like us, because we do get these questions from you guys, and obviously we're not physicians, we're not allowed to give medical advice, so it's always like we're treading kind of lightly, but what we can do is just share with you the information that's pretty commonplace in the community at this time.
Well, yeah, totally. And I think, I mean, even more than, giving any specific, recommendations on numbers or any of that kind of stuff, I think the most important thing to understand is that it's not a cut and dry situation.
Absolutely.
And if your doctor tells you that it is, they probably haven't really done the research, I mean,
Right.
it's, there's a lot of variability in there. Yeah. So if you kind of the red flag that I look for is if you have, if you've never had lipid testing done, so if you've never had a basic cholesterol test and you go in and you get a basic test from your doctor, and then based on that one test, they want to put you on meds, that's a problem. Because for several reasons. One, the basic lipid testing, it's just not as conclusive as people like to think that it is. There's a lot of room for variability. There's a lot of math in there. So there's if you see, in the numbers, it'll be like LDL-C. Well, the C stands for calculated, meaning that they don't actually know how much is in there. They're basing it on an algorithm, or not an algorithm, but an equation, that's based on averages of a lot of sick people.
Right.
So it's...
Well, how do folks know if they've got a basic panel or if they've got something more complex? Because I know I've had clients say to me before, no, I don't think it was the basic panel. I don't know. He said a VAP test, or, it's like, how do they...
Yeah. So if the only numbers that came on your test, and this is based on the U.S., right? So I don't really know if it's done differently in other countries, but here in the U.S., a basic test is total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, LDL-C, which is calculated, and then triglycerides, and then sometimes they'll give you a ratio of HDL to total cholesterol. That's just a basic test. And so if you have something more than that, like, so if you have a VAP test, of VAP, which is like vertical auto panel or something, I can't remember what it stands for, but that's one where they actually go in and count the LDL particles. They look at the size of the particle. It's a much more in-depth test, and it's a good one to get. But again, it's just another test. It's like there's still a lot of room for variability in there.
Right.
But yeah. So if you just have those handful of basic things, the total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides, that's a basic lipid panel. And a lot of times it comes with a bunch of other stuff, so it can be confusing. So it'll come with your bun creatine and all of the kind of metabolic panel, so to speak. And so that can kind of muddy the waters a little bit. But as far as just the pure lipid panel, the basic test is just that: cholesterol, or total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, calculated, and triglycerides.
Right.
So the big point here is that if those are the only numbers that you have, and it's a concerning number, say your total cholesterol is is outside of the normal range, and your doctor wants to, talk to you about going on meds or something like that, just the next step would be to get tested again, even if it's just a basic panel. I mean, there's so many variables and there's so much opportunity for lab error that you really should get tested 2 to 3 times with the same lab, the same kind of test, and try to make the testing environment or the testing scenario as similar as possible. Yeah. So always do it fasted. Try to get an appointment as early in the morning as you possibly can. Make your nighttime routine the same as you can. All of those things.
And something to keep in mind is before you go in for your first test, take note of all these things. Okay, what did I have the night before? How did I sleep? When was my appointment? Think about all this stuff before you go in and get tested the first time.
Yeah, for sure. And if you had any major changes in your diet, so did you go super low carb and then say, hey, this is kind of cool being low carb. I wonder if it's changing my blood lipids, and then go in and get tested. Like that's going to be a dramatically different thing. So
right, and that's actually another good point to make. If you're someone who's correcting obesity or insulin resistance, that's going to change your lipid panel as well, your profile as well.
Yeah, there's a really good chance of that. Yeah. So if you have specifically if you have fatty liver disease, like some people will know if they've been diagnosed with that, or like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Mm-hmm. People who are obese, they've got a lot of fat to lose. People who are maybe type 2 diabetic, or they know that they're very insulin resistant, then part of that process of correcting those things, of losing the weight and sort of starting to strip out some of the fat from the liver, can dramatically increase your blood lipids, because that's how your body's getting rid of it. That's how the stuff gets out of the liver. So, and you'll see this happen. And I don't know that there's any real clinical research or data that supports this, but it's certainly an anecdotal thing that you see happen, where people will make this transition into a paleo or primal lifestyle, and they'll start to lose a bunch of weight. And maybe they knew they had fatty liver disease, maybe they didn't know, but then they get their blood lipids checked, and they've seen a pretty significant increase in their cholesterol, and that can be part of what's going on. So it's definitely there's just so many moving parts many variables in there that there's just nothing cut and dry about it. But I can't recommend Chris Kresser's high cholesterol action plan enough. It's a 9-part educational piece. It's videos and paperwork and a whole pamphlet that you can take and talk to your doctor with a flow chart of, get this test. And if this is if this is the outcome, then talk to your doctor about doing this. And then based on that outcome, do this. And it's just stellar. He's done a great job.
He's really nailed it. And Chris Kresser's the cholesterol dude for sure. If you guys haven't heard of him, you can check him out at chriskresser.com. And his last name is spelled Kresser. So definitely give him, he's got one of the most informative websites out there, not just on cholesterol, but on the paleo or ancestral health position overall.
Yeah, and he dives really deep into the hormonal stuff, too. So if anybody has got issues or questions about thyroid and all that kind of stuff, he goes deep and he's got a great perspective on the whole thing, I think.
He's a great resource. So next up, we wanted to talk about how to approach the workouts if you don't have time to do everything every day. So we had someone ask if they should just do the accessory work. And that would be okay, but what we would recommend is that you actually alternate. So 1 week do the accessory work, the next week do the strength work. Skip the accessory work so that you're actually getting the entire package, you're getting all of the muscle groups, you're working everything with compound movement, but you may not be working it all every day, but over time you're getting everything worked.
You're going to get it. Yeah. But that's if you don't, if it's just too time consuming in general.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're looking for something to cut out and you need to, cut back on something and it's not just one day, one day it's like whatever.
Yeah. Pick one or the
other. Yeah. But if you know, like, hey, this is just too much and I'm trying to figure out how to scale this back for my life, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, totally. And then also running them as a circuit.
Yes.
Can save you a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, that, and also especially if you don't have time to do the entire workout and the accessory work, but you want to get it all in during the day, try to get the strength in and do the accessory work broken up throughout the day. So like it doesn't have to be all at once. You could do your strength. Try to do your warm up, your DROM, your strength all in one.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure that you're warmed up for that strength session. But then if you need to do your push-ups, your pull-ups, your planks, whatever throughout the day, that's completely fine. Just work them in.
Yeah, totally. It's just about getting the work done.
Yeah.
And next month, there's going to be a few changes in just kind of the way that the accessory stuff works. So it'll be a little bit more challenging to kind of break up your accessory work as a piece by piece throughout the day, but it'll be pretty easy to sort of separate the workout, the primary strength, and then the accessory. We're going to be doing a little bit more, springtime, ready to get ripped for summer kind of conditioning stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit more circuit training and stuff like that next month. So it'll be, but the exact same things apply.
Yeah. Break it up and get it done as much as you can. But we are trying to provide the most comprehensive program we can, but always you guys figure out what works for you and communicate with us if you need suggestions on how to tweak it. So we're always here. It's all good. I know we all want to slide every slider, but if you don't get them all slid, it's okay.
Yeah. Or you slide them anyway.
Or slide them anyway. Yeah. I thought about that.
Yeah. Well, it's all you could do,
yes,
for the day, if that's the case.
Exactly. So yeah, your 100% is your 100%, and that's great. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is upcoming retreats for next year. We're already starting to plan out the upcoming 2016 year. And it looks like we're going to be doing Costa Rica for sure in February. So if you folks, and we've been getting a bunch of emails about retreats, so that's why I'm mentioning it today. A lot of people have been inquiring about potential meetups, retreats, all that good stuff. So we are definitely going to be doing Costa Rica. There may be another one later in 2016, a Peru hike Machu Picchu trip. So those are the two that we're looking at for next year. Machu Picchu will be a little bit more hiking intensive. Obviously, it'll be a little bit more trailblazing, that kind of stuff. And Costa Rica is paddle boarding, sailing, snorkeling, all the water, all the hiking, all that kind of stuff. It's more of a montage of things. So if any of you are interested in hearing more about that, please send us an email at info@beethewellness.com. And I'll make sure that we add you to our list to keep updated on that information. The retreats are not a ton of space. We usually have, somewhere between 10 to 15 spaces available. So they're relatively limited in size, and we like to do that so that we can keep them kind of intimate and really get to know each other and hang tight with you guys. So the other thing we're looking into doing is potentially some smaller like play day meetup type things, coaching things in Malibu. We've done retreats in the past there where they're 3-day live-in retreats, but we think we're going to change our focus in Malibu to just maybe doing a couple days where people can come in, stay wherever. We can make it a little bit larger format
and more accessible
geographically and price wise too. Just so people want to cruise out and come hang out with us for a couple days, then we'd be happy to have you, and we'll do some coaching, do all of these things that we're doing in Unveil Your Wellness, but in person. Yeah. So those are things to keep in mind. If you guys have any questions or want to stay in touch about that stuff, just please send us an email and we'll get you dialed in as that information unfolds. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. There's like a thing that like we don't have people's email addresses. There's a separation of church and state, so to speak, with Vimify, like with all of your email addresses and all that stuff that you use to register with Vimify. We don't have access to that. It's illegal for them to, send you an email on our behalf.
Yes.
So if you want updates on any of this stuff, or if you want to be in contact directly, then you got to hit us up.
Yeah. And you can email us, or you can go straight to the website at beethewellness.com and you can join our mailing list there too. And we don't send out a lot of emails. I maybe send one out a month so don't feel like, oh no, if I I give them my email address. It's going to be every day. It's really like once a month or so. Really, when we have something to say, we send you an email and that's about it.
There's, that we just don't have the time to write a bunch of emails.
Yeah. We're doing too many podcasts.
We have too many podcasts to write all these emails.
Yeah. All right. So that's a relatively short podcast this week, but those were all the questions and all the things that kind of came up this week. So we have a really special podcast that's going to come up next week. And it is me interviewing Adam, Coach Adam. So it's kind of it's a little over 2 hours. So be prepared to sit and hang with us for a while. But basically, it's our opportunity to get to know him and learn about his childhood, where he grew up, who he is, and how he came to be the awesome dude that he is.
Something like that.
So that will be next week in our off week. You guys can check for that.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Good times. That's all we got.
That's all we got. That's all, folks.
All right, people.
We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. You guys have a great final week. You guys are crushing it. We love you. We're proud of you.
Yeah.
That's all we can say. Yeah, you're nailing it.
Yep.
All right.
All right, people. We'll talk soon.
Tell me what you want. What you want from me, 'cause I can't stay, I can't stay. No one ever said that it might not be enough. This is love, so much love, but something still ain't right. Sweet serenity of the years we've known. We danced around this dream way too long and fly free. I don't know where the waves of the wind will take me. Fly free. I gotta chase a dream even if it breaks me. You can't change my mind this time. I'm gonna fly free. I don't wanna leave, but I gotta say goodbye.